Unedited episode 21. I'm Ethan, that's Jordan. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, man.
Good.
You have a good week?
I did have a good week, actually.
Yeah.
It was nice, yeah.
Nice. Me and you, a week ago, were chilling out at a spa
We were.
together.
Yeah.
Just maxing, relaxing.
Just absolutely, yeah.
You were reading a book, and I was floating around in salt water.
Yeah, did you like it?
Yeah, you know what? That was a unique experience. We went to, there's this pastor's retreat, and me and Jordan went to, is it called Manitou Springs?
Manitou Springs, yeah.
Okay. So it's I don't know if they call it a resort. What is it, a spa?
I think it's like a resort. Yeah, a little spa resort, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So but they got these big saltwater, like hot tub pools. You know what's cool about that is you could just like in the deeper side where you can't touch the bottom, you could just like stand upright in the water.
That's my favorite part of that experience.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I didn't go in this year actually, but I have been in there quite a bit. Yeah. And my favorite thing is that you cannot sink.
Yeah.
Because the salt keeps you upright. And I see that they advertise it now as Canada's Dead Sea, right? Like like all the advertising says that.
The actual lake, yeah.
Yeah.
Little Manitou, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure all that water just comes in straight from outside.
Really?
From that lake, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
In fact, that pool is so much cleaner now than it used to be. It used to have like a really like yellowy brown color, the water.
Oh.
So it did not, like, go look at old pictures of it and you'll see what I'm talking about. And now they've actually brought in filters that clean the water a bit, so it looks kind of like greenish now.
Okay.
But I was talking about this with someone else, just this idea that like it looks a little bit more presentable now, because back in the day I jumped into it when it was like brown, and it felt weird. It felt strange to be in like a yellowy brown kind of, because it has the feel of like a tub kind of, right?
It
like
does.
A huge tub,
it's kind
right?
of warm.
Yeah,
but it's not hot. It's just warm.
And there's 3 sections. There's a warm section, there's a hot section, and then there's a cold.
The hot section is just like warm though.
Was it?
Like none of the sections are hot tub warm.
How long did you sit in there for?
A couple hours.
No way.
Yeah.
Were
I
you
was just
sick when you got out?
People. No, I went to this like the cooler side, which is just like room temp.
Okay.
And I was just floating, talking to people.
Okay.
It was very relaxing.
See, Moose Jaw has a spa as well, and I went
Temple
there.
Gardens.
I went there exactly. I went there a few years ago, and I sat in hour and a bit in the warm one.
It's hotter.
I was like passing out. Like I was not feeling good the whole night.
Yeah, that one's hotter, I think.
Gatorade and water, like back and forth for like hours that night.
Dang,
so.
just double fisting Gatorade water.
Pretty
water.
much, eh? Well, it messed me up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
that's tough, man. It doesn't feel good, does it?
No.
Getting all dehydrated and heat exhaustion and.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
Yeah. Well, luckily I avoided that, but it was pretty fun. And then after that retreat, I went and ran our youth retreat.
Yes, you did.
So I'm retreated out, but don't worry.
Yeah.
There's more retreats coming up. We have our young adults retreat coming up. So I'm
November
not going to be
15th to 17th.
Whoa.
Is that the dates?
That's big.
Oh, man. I got it, eh?
That's big.
Nailed it. It's going to be good.
Yeah, just a little plug. Register.
It's going to be good.
If you're 18 to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. I even learned with our youth retreat this year, I was talking to our youth leaders. I was like, we scheduled just a little too much.
Yeah.
Usually I'm a big proponent of keeping space, but junior and senior youth have different needs for structure.
Yeah.
And so we went pretty heavy into scheduling a lot. We didn't even do everything we planned on doing. We just axed some stuff just to be like, they just need time to sit down and play board games. So the young adults retreat is going to be so chill because with that in mind, like young adults don't need, they don't need you to be.
No, I would have scheduled the youth camp in the same way probably.
Yeah.
And then the best part is you recognized, well, we need quiet time now. So then you just make it. You just be flexible enough to make it, right? Yeah. But I think young adults, you want a little bit more casual time. People want to hang out.
They want.
Yeah.
Give them some food.
Yes.
Place to sleep.
Yeah. Nachos.
Yeah.
Have nachos out.
Give them a little pat on the back and
salsa,
say, have at her.
Queso.
Maybe
some caviar.
Caviar?
Yeah.
Caviar on nachos. You're a sick guy, Jordan.
Sorry.
You're a sick man.
Sorry. Jeez Louise, eh?
Oh, we were treating like crazy, so that was fun.
Yeah.
But you guys don't care about that, listeners and watchers. I hope you enjoyed us talking about water and
have
retreats.
You been to Watrous, though? Maybe you do care. I don't know. Maybe you need to go.
Watrous or Temple Gardens. If you are in Saskatchewan, you want to have kind of two different spa experiences and to see what you prefer for the price point and stuff, you should go to Moose Jaw to Temple Gardens, and you should go to Watrous for Manitou Springs, and you should compare them.
I agree.
See what it's like.
Yeah. Both unique, and I think regardless, they're going to both be relaxing experiences.
Yeah. Man, I like Temple Gardens.
Yeah, it's good, eh?
That place is nice, man. Okay, so this week we have some classic sections, but also the return of one that we haven't seen in a while. We have right off the top here, parley, where me and Jordan are going to parley about a subject, which just means we're going to try to discuss it and come to terms about it, Yeah. And after that, we have In the Neighborhood. Jordan, you spoke last weekend.
I did.
I wasn't there.
No? Okay.
So this recap is everything to me.
Okay. We're going to get into it.
Okay. I hope you're ready to just re-preach the sermon to me.
I have all my notes in front of me.
Wow.
Actually, I don't. But,
wow. You're like ready to dig
in
in.
the heart. I'm going to bring them out.
Ooh,
Okay?
nice.
So, yeah.
Over the weekend, you're preaching to an audience of one.
Yeah.
God.
That's right.
And then now you're preaching to an audience of one. Me.
There you go.
I'm just going to let you know I'm a harder judge than God is.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Also, Ashley. Ashley was like, what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah.
She's here. So, yeah, that's In the Neighborhood. And then after that, we'll be talking about How About You, where we got a couple comments to address from last week's episode 20. So I'm excited to get into that. We got into some interesting stuff. I was looking at the comments, and I was like, oh, yeah, we talked about that.
We did.
I'm pretty excited to get into it again. So with that said, are you ready for parley?
I'm ready. Let's do it. Parley.
So, Jordan, what's the date today?
The date today is October 31st.
As of airing, yes.
Yeah.
I like that you did that. I like that. Yeah.
I'm thinking ahead here.
Yeah, you are.
So,
so what is October 31st, Jordan? Pray tell.
In our culture, it is the day of Halloween.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. It's a big time, man. Have you seen all the decorations going up around your neighborhood and stuff?
I've seen a lot of them. Yeah. There's a ton of them going up around my neighborhood. So
we'll probably get into this in a minute, but there's this one guy down the street that always, it's the 9 yards. Like his whole yard.
Yeah.
For Christmas too. Like it's just yard decoration central. Like have you ever seen those ones where it's like the National Lampoon's guy hanging off the, like Chevy Chase's character hanging from the eavesdrop?
No, but I want to see it.
Yeah, so this guy did that for Christmas, like I think a year or two ago.
Okay.
And it's pretty funny because it's like a stuffed dummy hanging off the roof with the lights dangling off.
Yeah.
So this guy loves participating in like the holiday decorations and stuff. I'm saying this guy, no idea who lives there.
Interesting.
Could be anybody. Could be a family of raccoons.
Yeah.
But they participate, let me tell you.
I tell you.
So what we're going to do for Parley is we're going to do kind of a good, bad, and ugly. The Good, the Bad, and the... You like that movie? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
Good, Bad, and the Ugly? I've heard of it, yeah.
You've never seen it?
I've never seen it.
What do you mean you've heard of it?
I don't watch a lot of movies.
It's quintessential spaghetti western, man.
Is it?
What do you mean is it? Of course it is.
Clint Eastwood?
Why? Yeah,
Clint Eastwood,
dude.
really?
Yeah.
I had that part right, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
When you said Western, I just had to go there.
Now name somebody else in the movie.
John Wayne?
No.
I'm done. I don't know anybody else now. That's
I don't know
That's
the
all
names of anybody else in that movie either, to be honest. But can you guess who, between the good, the bad, and the ugly, Clint Eastwood played?
John Wayne.
What are you? That's not the.
I only know John Wayne. Okay, that's the only answer I have.
I asked you a question. Yeah. I gave you 3 options, and you introduced a 4th. That's not how you answer a question.
So the options were the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Who does Clint Eastwood play in the theme?
He's obviously good. He's always good.
Is he?
Yeah.
Have you seen Preacher?
No.
Yeah, I don't know how many Clint Eastwood movies you've seen.
I've seen a couple.
A couple.
I seen A Perfect World.
Okay.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
I seen Gran Torino.
Okay.
Probably about 15 years ago.
So immediately into the dark ages here.
Yes, exactly.
So I
haven't seen any of the original Clint Eastwood stuff. No.
Clint Eastwood was a big part of my childhood. So
seriously?
was John Wayne.
Okay.
Western movies was huge, man.
I never watched Westerns.
Oh, my dad loved him because his dad before him loved him.
Yeah.
And so my brother loved him. So I loved him. Like it was.
Did you watch that TV show Columbo or whatever it's called?
Dude, yeah, that's not a Western, but I get what you mean. It's a great show.
When I think Western, I think those kind of shows.
Columbo?
Yeah, Little House on the Prairie kind of stuff.
What are you talking about?
That's just where I'm at with
Jordan,
this.
Columbo is a detective series.
They're all in the same kind of vein for me.
Not.
Yes, they are.
It's like a murder mystery. Columbo is not a Western.
Maybe it was that channel that showed the Westerns with those shows, and maybe that's
AMC?
why. That's it. That's exactly
but Little House on the Prairie wasn't on AMC, dude.
Wasn't it?
No.
Sure it was.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I never watched Little House on the Prairie. Did you?
Yeah, Yeah, dude. It's a show about a young family.
Shows.
It's about a young family pioneering the Western
Family
Front.
Matters was about a young family.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think you're just trying to rev me up. I think that's all this is.
No, it
you're
was
just
better.
Saying completely
Family Matters was
unrelated.
better. Just
How have we
saying.
gotten from Westerns to Family Matters?
Sorry.
What are you, man?
I'm sorry.
Who hurt you?
It is what it is.
Do you need to talk about it?
I don't. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was better too.
Wow. You know,
those were the shows I grew up watching. Yeah, what's Saved by the Bell?
Fresh Prince, I like a little bit. I like it 50%. The other 50% is like heavily misogynistic.
Yeah.
Kind of problematic.
Can be. Yeah.
Not kind of.
Yeah.
Heavily
I
problematic.
honestly haven't watched it in probably 20-some years. Except for that one episode where Uncle Carl goes back and wins his money back from the pool hall. I've watched that one a couple times in recent years.
Did you just say Uncle Carl?
Uncle Phil.
All right.
Carl was the guy, the kid, right?
This guy's never even seen
I'm
Fresh Prince.
not with it today.
Uncle Carl?
Uncle Carl. Uncle Phil.
Hey, look, I'm doing the Uncle
Carl.
Phil. Yeah. Okay. All right. No, that show had its real sweet moments, though.
Yeah, it did.
Moments of humanity being shown, and the way that Phil showed up for Will.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
Well, and when Will's dad showed up in one episode, that episode I've gone back and watched.
And then bailed on him again.
It was a tough one to watch.
Spoilers.
Yep.
Will's dad does not stick around.
Go watch the show.
Yeah. It is a tough
You'll
episode.
see Uncle Carl.
Okay. I don't... Uncle Carl. There's not even a character on the show called Carl.
Yeah, there is.
Carlton.
Oh, yeah, it's Carlton. That's right. You know who I thought about with Uncle Carl? Back to Family Matters. Wasn't Carl Winslow?
I've never seen Family Matters.
Yeah, it was. It was Carl.
Okay.
That's where I'm getting my Carls mixed up.
See, I'll just believe you because I've never seen that, so I'm not going to make stuff up about it.
Okay.
Unlike somebody else in this room.
Who makes up Uncle Carl?
Who just makes up stuff about shows.
Do you have an Uncle Carl?
No.
Okay.
Got an Uncle Rob, an Uncle Kev, an Uncle Hanu.
I got too many to list.
Really?
Yeah.
I only have 3. Wait.
Okay.
Well, that would be really bad if I forgot somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Yeah, it's only... No, Uncle Kari. My bad. I did forget one. There's 4. There's 4 uncles.
Okay.
How many? Just you don't have to list them, but
my
how
dad's
many?
side of the family was 16. My mom's
16 uncles?
Well, 16 kids. Well, yeah, I guess not uncles. Yes, hold on. How many would it be? I probably got about 8 to 10 uncles.
On one side?
On both.
On both sides.
Between the both. Yeah, 3 of my mom's.
It's 4 too many.
Is it?
You should just have 4 like
I
me.
should. Okay, well, I have a lot of uncles.
Try harder next time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, my Uncle Sam's a big Leaf fan. Shout out to Uncle Sam. Yeah.
Hey, are you an uncle to a lot of kids?
Yeah. Well, a few.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy becoming an uncle to a bunch of kids.
It
when
is.
I say a bunch, I mean 3 right now, expecting the 4th. But
Yeah.
it's like... Okay, anyway, let's talk about parley.
We're bunny trailed here. Yeah. Yeah.
We are talking about Halloween, and we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the idea for this parlay is we're going to talk about Halloween and our experiences on the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we could just go in order, maybe, or how do you? I mean, this is parlay. We haven't scripted any of this. So how do you want to tackle this? Have you got any good, bad, or ugly memories?
As a kid, the good part was always getting candy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
I always loved the candy side of things. I did.
Controversial take.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the candy side of things. I really did. My favorite thing to get in my little, I used to take a pillowcase out when I used to go out for candy. Mm-hmm. And my favorite thing to get back then was chips.
Really?
And I'm wondering if I wonder if kids like chips still.
I hated getting chips.
Did
man.
you? Was that your least favorite?
Give me candy, man.
Okay.
Because the bags of chips were never the flavor you wanted, and they're super small. And it's like, if I wanted chips, I would just beg my parents for chips until they got me some.
And maybe that's
So
it. I
bratty.
don't know why in the 90s I felt like chips was like the big thing. Like if we got chips at a house, everyone would be like, "There's chips there."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I
Interesting.
felt like all the other candy was just you were gonna get so much of it anyways. That to get a bag of chips was nice. So
Yeah, I think Ashley put in the notes here, chips were more rare then. I think she's right.
I think so too.
Do you remember Dan Murphy?
I do.
He in Thompson
Yeah.
used to give out the full-size bags of chips.
Yes. And
That guy went nuts,
those
man.
houses would be like
A can of paw.
be looked upon, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So he knew he's actually a guy who really showed me a lot of the good about Halloween. So when I was growing up, I was like, so first of all, well, how do I I might just throw the good, the bad, and the ugly away for this little story here. I'm not going to try and like force.
We don't
it
need to stick to it. We could just talk a bit about
But I remember growing up, my parents were very anti-Halloween.
Yeah.
For like spiritual reasons.
Yeah.
And they would teach us about that stuff, and they would really try to keep us sheltered from it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we would just lock into the house, shut off the lights, and ignore what are they called? Trick-or-treaters.
Yeah.
Or we would go to, like, we always lived in small towns, so we would like drive to the city nearby and go see a movie on Halloween night or something. Those are great memories. Love that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I love Halloween, is because it's like family time.
Yeah.
So even our family time, we didn't participate in lots of the pop culture stuff going on, but we would go out and have a big family movie night. It was super rare, super fun, just a good way to, and my parents would get us candy on our own and stuff. So anyway, but the point is that we were very vehemently against Halloween for spiritual reasons. And then growing up as a young adult and teenager, I held on to that stuff. A lot of it was like fear-based, because as a kid, you don't understand the bigger reasons that your parents might have. So my parents had like more rational reasons.
Yeah.
But growing up in that and becoming a young adult, it was just fear. Like I was just like, well, it's evil, it's bad, it's going to get me. I should be afraid. I need to pray really hard to keep myself safe on Halloween night. Like really interesting stuff to come out of my childhood.
Interesting how you made that connection.
Yeah. So that's because I pick up on the vibe, the mood, the small things that were presented, not necessarily the rationality behind it, because my parents aren't like fearful people like that. But anyway, so growing up, that was kind of my perspective. When I interned with Pastor Dan in Thompson, Manitoba, I remember he was like, dude, I am never missing Halloween. I go all out. I got full-size chocolate bars. I got pops. I got everything. And they would have their house up and open all night. Yeah. And he would even just like be so, man, what a jolly guy too. Like he would be like, I got to help every single kid that I possibly can coming through and stuff. And then, so since I was interning with him, I did Halloween at the house I was staying out with as well. And I remember giving out candy to the kids, and they're so excited to be in their costumes and stuff. And I was just vibing the whole night. I was like, it changed my perspective a lot. Like that might not have been the first time that it changed my perspective. Yeah. But it was a big fulcrum. Where things kind of tipped on it, you know what I mean? And
I worked with Dan for a few years up in Thompson. And I remember this actually, that he was very much on, let's seize the opportunity to be with our neighbors and to like honestly bless the kids and the families in the area kind of thing, right?
Be generous. Yeah. Like, do you want to be, as a pastor, he was like, if I'm a man of God, I want to be known as somebody who cares about the kids and is generous and
No, he was always, I remember he always stressed that. And yeah, his house would have been the party house. Every kid would have wanted to go there, like putting on different costumes to go back, right?
Yeah.
For seconds and thirds, right?
Well, that whole street was like, everybody loved that street, actually. They went hard.
Sauger. Yeah.
Sauger. That's right.
In Thompson, Manitoba. Yeah. I remember there was one house on that street as a kid when we went out to trick or treat that left like a big pile of a bag of candy on the step and said, "Take 2." Yeah. And unfortunately, kids in the 90s didn't take 2. I don't know if they still do now. Actually, I had a neighbor before who did this, and for the most part, people respect it now. It seems like a little bit better. Yeah. Because like to me, like, you know, a lot of houses don't give out candy, and so if there's something there, like at least they went out of their way to leave something on the step for you, right? Yeah. So
well, it's like it takes one bad apple, you know what I mean? And not that those kids that take it are bad apples in themselves, but I just mean it's a bad decision that they've made. So one, and me and you being maybe younger teenagers, if we were out, who knows? We might have grabbed a handful.
I think I probably did.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't like. I saw 2 people like, you know, opening up a pillow sack and dumping half the thing. Dang, like, I wouldn't go that far probably, but I did take a few extra. I'm sure.
I would have been the kid with my friends who I might have. I would be like, the sign says not to do that, guys. But then when I was younger, I don't know, I might have just been like, candy.
Yeah, I've even had friends and a pastor I know as well who used to like go full out like hot chocolate and coffee in the driveway and turn the driveway into kind of a hangout spot where people can kind of sit down for a bit.
Didn't you do hot chocolate one time or something?
I think.
Or was that something else? It might have been something else.
In Winnipeg, I think our church did, Okay, so I was a part of it where we just like served hot chocolate.
Just like a warm-up station. I think that's cool, because if there's young families out there who are like freezing their toes off with their little kids in a dinosaur costume.
Yeah.
Some hot chocolate goes a long way.
And in Canada, that October 31st is suspect. It was cold this morning kind of thing, right?
It was -2 last night.
Oh.
Well, like in the evening, not middle of the night.
This morning at 6 a.m., the temperature outside was -5, feels like -15 or something like that.
No,
so
I don't like it.
I know this because I decided to go downstairs.
Yeah.
And get my walk in.
Yeah.
And I did not take the area today.
You're like, I'm not going outside.
No,
Yeah.
that step machine was a good thing.
Yeah, man. I'm getting ready for the indoor exercise for the season too. So, I mean, we both kind of had different experiences, but my turning point there, like as an adult, I realized like, wow, the whole community. Well, so there's people that just don't care or don't participate or opt out.
Yeah.
But there's like a huge amount of community building around Halloween. Mm-hmm. And I realized when I was interning that year and stuff and moving forward, I was like, man, this is an opportunity to plug in and to get connected with like a lot of positive things that are happening.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been like a long process of working out, like what do I believe is not good about Halloween.
Yeah.
And mostly from like a spiritual level. And then what do I believe is like actually a perfect opportunity to turn something into a God-honoring, people-loving thing. And so like at our youth group, we have a costume party every year.
Yeah.
And we tell the students, we're like, hey, just so you know, we don't want to see any cats, nurses, or fire people who could have sexy in front of them, you know? Yeah. So we don't want you guys to be like, think this is like you're 21 at a bar or something. We don't want you dressing like that. Yeah. And we also don't want you guys honoring like gore and dark stuff. Like just a costume. Like dress up as something fun. Yeah. Dress up as a character that you like from a show. Yeah. Like it's just a night for whimsy. Yes. And so here at the youth group, we get to like every part of the night is in our control, which is beautiful. So we're not subject to like leaving anything up to chance of having people, put into an uncomfortable situation. Yeah. Like it's all just good. And everything can be perfectly handcrafted to be safe, fun, God-honoring, welcoming, and like a connection for the community. So like kids can bring their friends to youth group and they're like, see, this is like a thing that you would participate in anyway, but come do it here, get some free candy, and just have like some youth leaders who just get to know you and say hi and ask about your week. And
it's a good way to bring some people in, get to see a few people and get to honestly bless some kids. So it's good.
And I love that. Yeah. So I love Halloween because of that. Okay. And I love it as well because if you get to have you ever give out candy at your door? Oh, yeah. I won't be able to this year. Yeah. Yeah. But the years that I have, man, what a great time.
I know.
Kids coming up to the door.
You connect with a ton of people, right?
Yeah.
So only get spooked a couple times, I think. You get a couple crazy costumes, I'm sure, coming up to the door.
Well, but in Martinsville, like I don't though.
No?
Like it's all just kids.
Okay.
So it's like, and I find that teenagers are really reticent to do it. If they do, they're kind of like in and out pretty quick.
Did you go trick-or-treating when you were a teenager?
No.
I think I cut off in like grade 9. I think in Thompson we tried to like somewhere around grade 8 and 9 was sort of like where they would stop doing it, right? But
I only trick-or-treated a few times as a kid, honestly.
Okay.
Because so my parents were like pretty against it. Okay. Later in life though, they were like, maybe we could help our kids have a safe experience if we go with them. And because so here's an ugly part of Halloween is my mom used to tell us a story. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Or do you want to tell your thing?
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I'll comment on it.
All right. So my mom told us a story when she lived in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, that she was out with, I think, some of her friends, and she was young, and she was just walking around with her candy bag in like a trash bag or something. And they were walking around, having a good time in their costumes, and she said some older teenage boys with like a razor blade came up and slit her bag, and she didn't know. Yeah. And they like were just really cruel and mean to some poor kid. Yeah. And so like a bunch of her candy fell out, and she didn't. And if you knew my mom, like it would break your heart even more. She's so sweet.
The thought of that bothers me even hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that's part of her background for us. So she was like, don't go out on Halloween. People are horrible, And like me and my friends in high school, people tried to egg us. Like, we lived in Thunder Bay, Ontario, so this wasn't reserved for Halloween. Yeah. It was just throughout the year, people would egg people in Thunder Bay, man.
It just happened. It's kind of a pastime, eh?
Yeah, yeah. So there's some ugly parts to it there, but
Thompson, the same thing. Same thing. Growing up, we often went with a parent kind of thing because there were some like teenager kids who would their goal was to steal bags of candy.
Yeah.
So like, what a terrible thought to think about. It's
gross,
like
dude.
Some young kid out there with like a little pillow sack full of candy, and all of a sudden you rob it from them, and hours of work put in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's frustrating. That's tough.
It really brings back the idea that like people who, this is like so cliche, but it's so true. Like people who have been hurt or are hurting, like will hurt people.
Yeah.
Not even out of malicious intent, but just because of the way it shapes your worldview and stuff, right? I think when you see teenagers stealing candy from kids, all you can really say is it's like those kids they're dealing with something more than just candy, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like 100%. It's a lot deeper than just taking candy for those kids. So
it is for sure. Can I ask you a couple questions about your favorite things at Halloween?
You can.
What's your favorite candy?
Okay, you know what? When I was a kid,
my
favorite candy to get in a bag would probably be like a Mars bar.
Okay.
Because I feel like those were crazy rare when I was a kid. Like getting a Mars bar in there, like I feel like it was always Rockets and bubble gum.
Okay, you said mine.
Rockets. Really?
Yeah, Rockets is my favorite. Like obviously chips, I already said that. I liked chips when I was younger.
Yeah.
But those little Rockets, like, and I only seen them around Halloween time. Now they're kind of everywhere, and you see them kind of all throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
But I used to love eating them, one at a time. And some of them were soft, some of them were a little harder and stuff. And I like the texture of it. Yeah.
Like some of them might be like too humid, sort of thing. So they're not like chalky. They're just
and then sometimes like some of them are a little different. Like they had little sweet tarts that were kind of in the same package too. And but I used to like the Rockets.
You know what my favorite candy is now?
What's that?
Maynards.
Oh yes.
Like Swedish Fish.
Yeah.
The berries.
Those are a hit.
Fuzzy peaches. Dude, I just love those so much.
I definitely like them. Did you have a favorite costume that you've ever worn?
I'm trying to remember costumes that I used to wear when I was a kid, but as an adult, I've done some interesting ones.
Okay.
Because I've always been doing youth parties, right? So I dress up every year anyways. So I've done Batman. That was really fun. That was when I straight up, when I was working in Thompson, actually.
Yeah. Was your hair long?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you weren't.
Why?
I'm just wondering if you were like recent Batman or older Batman. So
no, this was so I had like a Christian Bale representation of Batman, like a Dark Knight costume.
Yeah,
and like at the time I was in college, so I just like spent money on this like.
That's hilarious.
Costume.
That you had
it was
that.
Intense,
man.
And I think the youth really enjoyed the fact that I went all out, though. It helped them feel more comfortable to do it as well, right?
Yeah.
And then I did like Bro Thor. Have you seen the Marvel Avengers Infinity War? Anything?
No.
So at one point in this movie timeline,
you're just like disappointed with me.
So
yeah,
today, it's just TV you haven't
shows
seen anything.
And Uncle Carl.
This guy lives under our rock.
Sorry. There you go.
Well, there's a Thor in this show. He gets really down.
Yep.
And he starts partaking in a lot of extra Nordic drinks.
Yep.
And ends up gaining a lot of weight.
Okay.
And he wears like a frumpy cardigan and sunglasses. He kind of looks like the dude, you know?
Yeah.
And he, so he's kind of just like, it's like his low point, and it's like used as a comedy beat in the movie where it's like this god of thunder is like, you know, just like really out of shape and like not doing good. So I was like, I can't be Thor, but I could be Bro Thor. And so
you got creative.
I was that guy. And I wore like a cardigan and made like my own hammer and had a wig and a beard. You know, so nice. I like to go all out like that.
Yeah. My favorite was when I was probably about 5 or 6, I was a clown.
Yeah.
My mom had my face all painted up. I had the big hair, and I wore like this little like 80s little clown suit.
Nice.
It was amazing. I was a boxer once too, and I still have that costume. And
boxer costume.
Yeah, and Zara will wear it sometimes around the house for fun because my mom is sentimental, so she hangs on to these little things.
Yeah.
So she made me like a boxer's robe. It's a red robe.
Yeah.
With like the tie on and the boxer shorts, and I had the gloves. And
that's cool.
And another kid in my class was a boxer that year too, and we had a little fight. It was fun.
Nice.
No one got hurt, but it was a good time, right? So,
yeah. So you're just condoning violence.
I am not condoning violence.
That kind of sounds like you are.
Yeah, I like a good boxing match every now and then. So I wouldn't do it now.
What are a couple slugs between friends, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Me and you, probably after this, we're probably going to throw down and have a fist fight, you know?
Yes.
That's just how we do.
Often after we record this thing. Yeah.
We're usually just so hyped.
Usually how it goes, yeah.
Yeah.
So... Anywho.
Something popped in my head. But you know what? I think basically Halloween definitely is just like a good community opportunity to get out there and be involved. And whatever way that you do, I mean, that's my opinion, is that it's a good chance to plug into the community and get involved and connected and to be part of some kids' lives. And if we don't want people to be stealing bags of candies, maybe a few more adults walking around out there or whatever, like might help stop that sort of thing.
It's not a bad thing.
Let's help the community be better, It doesn't
100%.
have to be. But one more thing I kind of wanted to say is that I had my nieces over at the beginning of October. Mm-hmm. And so some Halloween decorations had kind of started to go up, and they're from Thunder Bay. And I was asking my sister, what's it like over there for Halloween? And they're like, well, it goes crazy. And they were like, honestly, Thunder Bay's like dark with Halloween. Yeah. Like it's like really creepy decorations, like gross stuff, like lots of like, murder scene stuff, just set up on lawns. Yeah. And they were like, with our young girls, we're like, I don't want to take my kids around these neighborhoods with all this creepy stuff flying around and stuff. Yeah. And it just made me kind of remember, because I like the kitschy stuff, it's like there's a big spider on the lawn or whatever, like I enjoy that stuff. I like it when people participate in the decorations. But then sometimes you see like somebody puts like a body bag out on the door or something. It's pretty, and I'm just dark, like, why? Yeah. Like, let's not do that. To me, that's like a big ugly point of Halloween, where it's like, I really don't believe in like honoring like the dark, disturbing things. Yeah,
my daughters, for example, like right by their school bus stop, there's like the craziest looking house ever.
Yeah.
We're talking like graves and like skulls and all the gore stuff that you described. And it is disturbing to walk by. I always say to them, just look the other way, right? Like, but it can get out of hand and into the areas that definitely are not ideal.
Well, it makes me think, because I don't have kids, but then I interact with kids and like my nieces, and I'm like, you know what, like that would just be like, it's not fun. Yeah, that's not fun. Nope. And it doesn't help the kids, and it's not fun for the community, in my opinion, anymore. I agree. So I think there's like a line that needs, but of course everybody's going to have a different take on perspective on what that line is. You know what I mean? Absolutely. But that's why I like doing like our youth group party. Yeah, it's because it's like, I know exactly where the line is in this group, and so we can make this a safe, good, fun time.
It was always a fun time. We used to do it back when I was a youth pastor here at the church as well. Yeah, we used to enjoy it.
And you can like, you're still doing all the good stuff, just without all the nasty stuff.
The odd year, depending on when the day fell, like if it was far behind or something, like if it was like November 6th or something, I would theme the night. Yep. And like one night we did like superheroes. The next night we did like 80s ones, right? And I realized like, oh, they don't know 80s. I should have done that. A little bit of a miss there, right?
Yeah. But, actually, that came back though because of Stranger Things. Okay. So we did a night of strange things one time, and it was just basically like Stranger Things themed. Okay. And this was like right after season 1. So, which was arguably less intense than more recent seasons as well, because we were kind of like, not everybody's going to like this, but we'll just use the theme of it, Yeah. But, the 80s nostalgia, like small town, and that was like incredibly fun. We did a night in the multiverse where it was right after like all the like Spider-Man multiverse movie had come out and stuff. And we did Willy Wonka one year.
Willy Wonka. Wow.
That was fun.
That would be cool.
So it's just like, actually the associate pastor here at the time, Michael Fisher, dressed up as Willy Wonka and made an appearance.
Oh,
and,
seriously?
Like, gave out prizes and judged costumes.
That's cool.
So you're coming to the Halloween party, eh? You'll come out, dress up, and hand out prizes?
I don't have a costume. So
I'll give you one.
Yeah.
I've got one in my office that you could use. I'm not even joking.
Well, I'll try it on later.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, everybody have a fun, safe Halloween, and if you're participating, then just enjoy it and enjoy being part of the community, enjoy your candy. If you're not participating, then that's totally fair, but either way, we hope everybody's safe and has fun on the 31st.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, why don't we move on to our next section? It is In the Neighborhood.
In the Neighborhood.
You ready?
I'm ready.
You ready for In the Neighborhood?
I'm all set.
So you were the man.
Well, I was
this last weekend.
I was the teacher preacher. Yeah.
Let's just stick with the man.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not comfortable calling myself the man here. Okay?
Oh, because you're not him.
No.
Can I call you him? You were him. You are him.
Sure.
You like that affirmation?
Yeah, I'll take him.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
How would you feel about knowing that him is probably bigger than the man?
You were the I don't know. Bothers me now a little bit. I don't want him anymore. Okay. I was Jordan. Okay.
You were Jordan.
Yeah.
But you spoke this weekend, and did you like the introduction I gave for you?
Yeah, I did actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Somebody got a text about it at the youth retreat.
I made comments about it all 3 times, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I think on Sunday morning, I called you my BFF, I think. And because my daughter uses that saying, BFF, right?
Yeah.
Like she has a close friend and she's like, she's my BFF. Right?
Nice. That's so cute.
So I don't know if that's a thing still, but.
So M texted Alyssa, who
Yeah.
was at the retreat. Alyssa is a youth leader. And she was like, you missed the cutest introduction or something like that. And I was like, nice.
Yeah, I think on Saturday I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. So I guess
you didn't.
I guess we're really that close. I said something like that. Right?
You did. So for anybody who didn't hear the sermon or watch the service online or whatever, I said, you call him Pastor Jordan. I call him my best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife loved it. Thought it was great. I thought it was great too. It was actually a fun way to transition and get up on the stage and beyond heartfelt, Ethan. Like I had to hold the emotion back and get right into the message because I was like,
you're tearing up.
I'm like, I don't even know if I could talk after this kind of affirmation here in love, right?
So after you got over the moment, what was it that you talked about?
Well, we went into it was what we call kind of like we weren't in a series. So Pastor Louis,
series.
Yes, no series right now. So Pastor Louis said to pick what you feel led to talk about. So we were at that retreat last week, actually. And out there, I was kind of thinking about this. And I had Luke 15 in my heart, like the story of the 2 sons.
Yeah.
I was tempted to call it the story of the prodigal son, but it's actually about 2 sons.
It's a different one.
It's about 2 sons.
It's just completely different from the prodigal son.
Well, there is that son. There is that son too.
I'm just joking.
Actually, Tim Keller wrote a great book on this years back in 2008 called The Prodigal God. And that's that's the very first time I ever thought about the fact that there are really 2 brothers in this story.
Yeah.
And we do ourselves a disservice by only focusing on the one. So we talked about it. And what I asked people to do is I read the story. I talked about the context in Luke 15, 1-2, where it talks about how like Jesus was talking with the sinners and tax collectors, and the Pharisees were muttering like, this guy is talking and eating with them.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yep.
And it sets up some stories. There's a story about lost sheep. There's a story about the lost coin. And then we get into what's probably one of the more famous parables of all time, the parable of the 2 sons, right? Mm-hmm. And so we all know the stories. I set up both scenes, talked about what we see in the younger son, what we see in the older son. I think once you go through that, you realize that Jesus was actually still talking to both groups. But the younger son represents the tax collectors and the sinners. And the older son represents the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And, younger son really messed up, wore his sin on his sleeves, like just obvious that he missed the mark, right? Comes home, father, he's ready to roll his speech. Like, I'm not worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.
Yeah.
Father runs to him, kisses him, puts a robe, ring, kills the calf. Let's have a party. The son came home.
Killing the calf being a good thing.
It was, yeah. Well, and it was a rare thing, right? Because like even meat was rare to eat back then.
Yeah.
So like,
and they were fattening it up. It was like it was being prepared.
I think Scripture actually says the fattened calf,
Yes,
right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So they have this big party, and older brother's over here upset, like this guy disgraced you. He asked for his inheritance. Like asking for your inheritance early. It's kind of like saying you're dead to me, right? Like it's not a good thing. It's not a good request, right? Because in order to get an inheritance, someone has to pass away, right?
Yep.
And so for him to do that, like it's just and in a lot of ways, he would have really disgraced his father. And for his father's response to be that way, older brother was like, "Wait a second, like And then he gets proud of his accomplishments. I've never done this, and I've done all this for you, and I've never disobeyed, right?
And he's the eldest, which especially culturally is huge.
Yeah, which is a very Pharisee attitude. Like we see them a lot in the Gospels, right?
Yep.
And and the father is a good father to the older brother too, who says like, I love you, everything I have is yours, but we have to go in and celebrate because this brother of yours was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found, right? Mm-hmm. And then the story kind of ends there. And Jesus doesn't really tell us what happened, per se, right? Like, we never know what happened with younger brother. Seems like he came home and obviously was going to have a great relationship with his father and was going to stick around. Older brother, we don't know if he went to the party or if he just left upset. And Jesus was specifically used these characters, I think, to teach both groups about, the father's love, right?
Yeah.
But I asked the congregation, I asked anyone who was listening just to find yourself in the parable. This was my take home. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could relate to the younger brother. Maybe you found yourself in a spot in life where you're like, how did I get here? Like, you were a long way off from where you should be, right? Like your sin was pretty obvious, and you realize, like, what am I doing here? I need to go back home, right? So I gave an opportunity for that. And some people, I said, you probably can genuinely relate with the Father. I think as God does something in our hearts and lives throughout the years, maybe our response more quickly can be compassion for people and mercy and grace, right?
Yeah.
So there's that side. It's not to be arrogant, but like maybe the Lord's done something in your life where like you just naturally go to compassion for people, which is a beautiful thing. And then I said the hard part, and this is the hard one for us to identify with, is the older brother. Like, is there some judgmental side in our life, right? Like, and I basically said, like, I took the scripture where it says, when his father saw him a long way off, I said blank. I said fill in the blank. He was filled with blank. And in the text in Luke 15, it says he was filled with compassion.
Yeah.
But I asked, are you filled with skepticism? Like, oh, sure, this kid's coming home now. He's got no cash. He's in need. Like, did this to himself. Like, like, are you filled with anger? Are you filled with frustration? Are you filled with judgment? Are you filled with, like, fill in that blank? And I think in my life, I've definitely identified with all three of these characters, right? And sadly with the last one. But there probably have been times where my response has been less than what I wanted it to be. Yeah. And I'm thankful as God's worked in my life and in my heart that, I can gravitate more towards the better responses. But it's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it is probably one of the most recognizable parables of Jesus.
I think so.
Like, you've got the Good Samaritan, which is like ubiquitous with being a kind-hearted neighbor,
I find these two are like popular culture even knows what you're talking about,
yes,
right?
Exactly, yeah.
When you bring it up.
Like you could say, like, be a good Samaritan and people will get that, like even just culturally. And I mean, like, specifically here in Canada, like, probably because largely, like, our popular culture was dominated by church culture for a long time as well. Yeah. So kind of makes sense that it would linger there. It might not be everywhere, but here. And then you get the prodigal son where everybody understands what a prodigal is, And, and like, well, at least most people, I should say, particularly like over 18, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you've had some sort of exposure to these. But the interesting thing, I think, is that like the perspective shift from the parable, I think it's probably been very popular because of the prodigal son who walks away. Yes. And the story of like redemption and grace and hope.
Beautiful thing.
And that's very popular. But like you're saying, recently there's been more conversation about the older brother. Yeah. And I think even that's where we're at culturally, I think. Where I think so. The church is sort of realizing that like we've become the older brother in a lot of ways, where we think like, well, you don't smell right, you don't look like, some things are off with you, and like, oh, you come now, or do we really? And like you said, very sadly, I think we've sort of had a little bit of a heavier emulation of the older brother in like the last. Anyway, we can get into church history in North America, but I think you get what I'm getting at.
I get what you're getting at, yeah.
And I think that it's good for us to stop and to actually, like you did, to walk everybody through and be like, well, where are you at? Like, you might not be the prodigal, and if you're not, it doesn't mean you just sit here and ignore this message. Yeah. Like, there's still something else for you here that's equally as important, which is, like, the Pharisees at the time were the established religious leaders, the established religious order of the time, and what's the North American Christian church now? Yeah. Are we not like the established old school religious order? Like, and so if Jesus spoke to the Pharisees in those ways, I wonder if we should challenge ourselves with that as well, to think. Because here's the other thing.
It does. It has to.
You think about Pharisees too. Sometimes, so like Jesus cussed out the Pharisees. He called them children of hell, and he was very harsh with them, especially when they tried to trap him. Like, they would always try to snare him in these little trick questions that would make him look bad, and then he flips it on them and says something really amazing, which those are great moments.
I laugh because I love it.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. We talked about a couple of those at our youth retreat, actually, but the reality is that, like, as misled as they may have been, they were people who were trying. And there were people that you have to believe were good-hearted, even if they were part of a corrupted system, that Jesus ended up saying, hey, if you don't change, like, I'm going to say I don't even know you. And that's a harrowing thing to hear from your God, to say, like, if you don't change your ways, you have to recognize that, like, if you come to the gates of eternity, I'm going to say, I never even had a relationship with you. I don't know who you are. And so I think sometimes as a North American church, we don't want to just start poo-pooing on the North American church. Mm-hmm. Just like we shouldn't just like completely poo-poo on the Pharisees. Like we should see ourselves in them. We should have compassion. Yeah. And we should see that there's like a valuable lesson to learn here as Jesus calls us to something deeper than just forms and practices. Yeah. And, legalism.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And one of the things I said at the end of the talk was that like, I think the take home for me is that like, in a sense, it's God, help me see people the way you see people. Help me see people the way this Father sees people. Because if I could see people the way the Father sees people, then I could respond to people the way the Father responds to people. Yeah. If I can't see that, then I'm going to probably respond to them maybe more like the way the older brother responded to people. Yeah. And that's not what we want to be known for. And the older brother is not commended in this story by any means, right? Like the older brother, what you just said is still given grace though. Is still loved, is still, affirmed. Everything I have is yours. You know what I mean? Everything's yours, right? Like, come on in. We need to party. We need to celebrate here, right? Yeah, yeah. So definitely. I read a quote from Brennan Manning, and I can't quote it to you right now, but it said something along the lines of like, as Christians, we need to identify ourselves as people wholly loved by God. And if we can't do that, like every other identity is an illusion. And if we can't do that, then it's difficult to give that away. Yeah. Like you can't reproduce what you're not, but you will reproduce what you are. Right? Mm-hmm. And so if I could see myself as loved by the Father, and I think this is a big part of the story, right? It's probably going to change the way I treat other people. It's probably going to change the way it's going to affect the way I see the world around me, right? The closer I get to that Father. That's why I left that option open in the message that like you can become more, you could identify, you're never going to be the Father, of course, because the Father is the God story in the in the parable, but you can come close to that where like, compassion starts to ring out of you a little bit quicker. Yeah. But
I think the invitation in Jesus' parallel actually is to act like the Father.
Exactly. So, exactly. Yeah. And that happens over time, and that's not a pride thing. That's just a good thing God's done in your life, right? Yeah. Yeah. But I do think, I think you gotta be careful that you're not getting too close to that older brother response, because I think, Jesus was obviously trying to teach the religious teachers of those days, and we need to give them a break too, like you said. But he was teaching them like, you're in danger of just not even coming into the party because you seem to think you should have some control over how I handle my affairs. Yes. And I didn't get deep into that, and I wanted to keep the message to about 30 minutes. Yeah. But it's almost like the older brother felt like I should have some control over what you do, Dad, right?
And the entitlement of being like, I've been here. It makes me think about the parable of the workers. Like, do you know the citation for that off the top of your head?
The workers in the vineyard?
Yeah.
I think it's Matthew 20. I think.
Yeah.
But it's in there.
It's definitely part of the Gospels. It's definitely in the Bible. Yeah. But Jesus' parable where there's workers who are working and they're getting paid a set wage. Yeah. And then the master of the workers hires on new people at different increments throughout the day. Yes. So some earlier and some later and later and later. And some of them hardly do any work by the end of the day. Yeah. But they all leave with the same pay, the same wage. Yes. And so the people who worked all day are like, this isn't fair. Yeah. And the master's like, who are you to say what's fair about my money?
Exactly.
And he says, these people came, and they came, even though they're late, they did the job, and so here's their reward. Yeah. And it ties in well to like the other terminology that is used about wages in Scripture, which like the wages of missing the mark or sin is to die. Like that's the payment of missing the mark is death. Like we walk ourselves to our own death when we walk, refusing to correct our aim. Yeah. And so when you think of it that way, and you think about the wage of the master, so Jesus, God being the master in the parable, it's like, are we ever those people where we're like, well, I've been here and I'm a generational Christian, or I've been doing the right thing for a long time. I've been working in the vineyard. I've been doing what the master says and then people come along and get the same reward. Are we ever like, but they should be in a different tier than me, Yeah. And it's like, no, because even again, Matthew quotes Jesus as saying, I believe it's in chapter 6 or 7, he says God sends the rain to the just and the unjust.
And the unjust,
His goodness is for all people, and all it takes is for people to come to him to partake in it.
For sure.
And so, it all ties in. Like it's a big message.
It's a rich text and a rich story too. And I was right on Matthew 20. I just peeked here and
nice,
looked it up.
good
and
job.
I did get that one right, but. And the issue in that story is because I just have to comment on that because that's one of my favorite parables to read because I discovered something a few years ago that changed a lot of it for me too. Mm-hmm. Is that none of us approach that text seeing ourselves as 1 hour workers.
No.
We approach that text as though we've been there all day, we've been laboring, and I think that's part of our North American culture. I think we value hard work in our society, so like none of us see ourselves as a slacker. We see ourselves as like I've been here all day, and so I remember I used to read that text growing up and think like that is unfair. I understand where they're coming from here, right?
Just
like,
as a kid,
literally
too, right?
worked an hour, right? Like I work at A&W, and you didn't even filter the fryers tonight. Do you know what I mean? Like, just get on your high horse kind of thing, But I think the point is to see that, in a lot of ways before God, we're all 1 hour workers. And all of us have been are only allowed into this thing because of his grace and love and mercy, right?
Exactly.
And it changes our perspective on things.
Yep.
But it seems like it parallels very well, and you could even parallel the Good Samaritan, but we're just going to leave that for.
Well, you could parallel the feast. The parable of the feast as well ties in. I mean, there's lots. Yeah. But suffice it to say, it's almost like Jesus knew what he's talking about, and he made it very clear what he meant over a long period of his teaching. So.
Very good, yeah.
Well, that was great, Jordan. Thanks for bringing that here for discussion, and I'm sure your sermon was awesome. Just to clarify, I didn't listen.
Okay.
I will never listen. No, I just wasn't here this weekend, so I missed it. But I'm glad to have been able to interact with it here. So thanks, man.
That's good, yeah.
Hey, you're him. All right, let's move on to our next segment. How about you?
How about you?
How about you?
How about it?
How about it?
How about them Blue Jays?
You know what? The Blue Jays are done. It's too bad.
Really?
Yeah. World Series is on still, maybe, depending on when you're watching this episode.
So Yankees will win?
You know what? They're down 3-1. They won last night. So they were down 3-0. I thought it was all over. So I'm hoping for a Yankees comeback.
Isn't that the whole running joke, is that the Yankees just have the most money, so they win?
And so do the Dodgers.
Okay.
So both these teams, like if you look at it through those terms, this is like the worst World Series ever.
Really?
Because the two teams that could really just buy up the title are doing that. Because baseball doesn't really have a salary cap, right? So it's the one league where you're allowed to just go nuts, right? So
what's the highest paid baseball player?
Oh, it's got to be something crazy. I haven't kept up in a long time, but there's been high 300 million contracts signed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
So you know what? We better look this up.
I had a conversation with somebody recently, and they didn't like what I had to say about how lots of professional sports are rigged.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say rigged, but influenced. Who was it? I'm trying to remember.
Ohtani. He plays for the Dodgers. He makes $70 million a season. And I should have known the answer to this because the Blue Jays actually went after him, and he chose the Dodgers. So
wow,
70 mil.
That's crazy, man.
If you look at what he makes per hour, that's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's insane. That's quite insane.
Yeah.
But
anyhow.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking to you about it.
Maybe
at the retreat. Me, you, and some other people we were talking to. I was like, it's a rabbit hole. If you want to go down into like sports betting, the millions and billions of dollars that go into sport outcomes, and anyway, so let's move on from that conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory that I subscribe to. So, anyways, there's a couple comments from last week.
Okay, hit me.
Should I hit you?
Yeah.
I'll just read the comments to you instead.
Yeah, don't hit me.
Okay, sounds good. We'll fight after this.
Sure, we always do.
So the first comment, top comment, most liked comment, most interacted with comment, everybody loved it, was from somebody on Spotify saying, "Can you guys stop saying succulent, please?"
Oh, wow.
Last week we went hard on succulent, man.
Yeah. Did I say succulent. It, or was this you?
I said it and you latched on.
Okay.
It was it was a little bit of a snowball.
I think I said moist.
Yeah. I heard somebody refer to moist as the M word the other day. They wouldn't say moist.
Because some people don't like that word. It bothers them.
I was like, it's gone too far,
Doesn't
guys.
bother me.
Really?
Doesn't bother me.
I get it if you just don't like a turn of phrase.
Yeah.
But then calling it the M word, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a word. But, okay, anyway. What are some other words that we could talk about? Why don't you bring it up? Throw some out there.
I don't know if I have one.
Just throw out some.
So moist is a controversial one.
I want some other offensive words. What have you got? Succulent. That comment was from yours truly. I commented, can you guys stop saying succulent? Because when I listened back to the episode, I realized we said succulent about 45 times.
You know what? Sometimes you have to.
It was succulent.
Sometimes you have to be succulent.
Ooh.
So.
Okay, here's another comment. So, fellow guest co-host from the past, Lou said, I'm fine with snakes. Dare I say, I like them.
Okay.
I think I'd even be fine with a gator.
Mm-hmm.
Just pause here.
Yes.
She's not done her comment. That's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's insane. We were talking about underneath the sport. Have we talked about baseball 2 weeks in a row?
I think so somehow. Yeah.
Okay,
but there was a gator in the dugout. Yeah.
So the gator is crazy. But
both of those freak me out.
I know. Well, the snake, I'm fine.
But this doesn't, what you're about to read, I think.
I am, however, deathly afraid of earthworms.
And earthworms don't bug me.
Yeah?
They bug you?
I used to play with them all the time. They're like the most gentle of bugs you can play with. But I get that they're kind of between the creepy crawly factor, they are very creepy.
And they do look creepy, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
They just don't scare me.
I think it also depends on your exposure to earthworms. Like from my childhood growing up, earthworms was just stuff I found in the garden, playing in the dirt and stuff.
Yeah.
And they never bit. And they never did anything except for just live their lives, and I would try to save them from the rain and stuff, like they get stuck on the road or whatever. But if you perhaps were to run into some sort of like media content where worms are part of something creepy and gross, that might impact you a little bit more.
I could agree. I can understand why you don't like them.
Yeah.
They just don't scare me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get not liking them. Like I'm not jumping up and down earthworms, right? Like whenever I see a big pile of them in a pile of soil or something.
Yeah.
But they just, I don't know, they just don't bother me as much.
Yeah.
They won't send me in the house. A wasp will send me in the house, but not earthworms. So.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Let's just leave that.
Because, let's not engage in that. We could get into a whole conversation about that stuff. But okay, well, that was How About You from last week. If you want to let us know this week how you're doing, what you're thinking. I mean, so far we've talked about Halloween. Mm-hmm. If you want to tell us something about it, tell us a good, bad, and ugly about it if you'd like to.
Yeah.
Maybe a good memory, maybe a horrible memory.
Favorite candy. I just like candy.
Boom.
So there you go.
What's your favorite candy now?
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
If I got to pick any candy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Nerds has always been my favorite, I think. I love Nerds.
You know why?
Why?
Because you're a nerd.
I'm a nerd?
Yeah, I like how you just walked right into that. That was so good.
Good thing I didn't say runts.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know why you didn't say runts?
Why?
Because you're not a runt.
Oh, thank you.
You're a beautiful man.
Appreciate that.
Okay?
Thank you.
You need to own it.
I'm going to accept it.
You're him.
I'm just accepting it. Okay.
Okay, if you guys could comment this week, Jordan's him. All right? I would really appreciate that.
I'm not him.
Honestly, I wonder how many comments we could get if I asked people to just comment that. Just comment Jordan's him.
I'm not him.
I think the fact that you're saying you're not him just proves that you're him.
I am Jordan.
Anyway, this has been episode 21, and we'll be back next week with episode 22, Excessive Finger Guns.
Unedited is a ministry expression of the Neighbourhood Church, hosted by Ethan Andrews and Jordan McClellan, produced by Ashley Drayton, voiceover by me, M. Curry. Watch us on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, or listen on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Thanks for listening.